events, you mentioned the soccer league, is that,
That is correct. The
That's a
youth
denial.
soccer league was denied.
Gentlelady's out of time.
okay, my time has
I
expired, so
appreciate it. Well, you got-
thank you very much.
You got really into it, so thank you very, very much. The gentlelady from New York is recognized for 5 minutes. Okay. I know. Ms. Melanie Talks, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Hold on, don't let my
I know.
clock start yet.
I haven't started yet.
How do you want to do it?
You ready?
I'm ready.
You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here today. I very much appreciate you coming once again, as particularly my colleague from New York, Assemblywoman Williams. We're from different parties, but there's common sense is common sense. And this is an issue of public safety for the people of Brooklyn, of Queens, of Staten Island, Bronx and Manhattan. And we, as you know, Mr. Chairman, know that we have roughly 200,000 migrants in New York City. We don't know the exact number because the city shields this information from us. But what we do know is just last week, a Venezuelan migrant who is a known gang member shot 2 NYPD officers. In fact, it happened in the district of somebody in this committee. This person crossed into this country illegally from Texas in July, and his asylum case was dismissed by a Chicago court, and he's been living at a migrant shelter in New York City in Queens. It's completely outrageous that we have a policy in place by this administration allowing people who are gang members, drug traffickers, criminals to enter into our country, and then on top of it, you're asking the residents of New York, the hardworking taxpayers, to pay for them to be housed in their communities, living free. They're living in these shelters. Some of them are luxury hotels that have turned into shelters. Some are national parks that have been turned into shelter, as is the issue that we're discussing today, Floyd Bennett Field. I want to highlight some of the concerns from the media, from individuals that have spoken to the media about spikes in robberies, that there have been arrests, crimes, concerns. We know that there's been panhandling, shoplifting. As a matter of fact, I pulled up some of the stats for the precinct in which Floyd Bennett Field is, and robbery is up over last year 35%. Car thefts are up 51%. Larceny up 29, so nearly 30%. Retail theft, which is a concern that the Assemblywoman expressed to me, up 60%. And then you have assaults that are up roughly 50%, hate crimes up 500%. It's just, and I've had a hard time, my first question is to the Assemblywoman, because I've had a hard time getting the actual statistics of people who are committing crimes that reside in the shelters. We know there were there were thousands of arrests. We know that much because when some of the media finally got to the numbers. Do you have any of that information, or is the city stonewalling you as well? Because I put in a FOIL request to get this data when I found out that there were thousands of arrests already made of migrants living in our city. And then when we saw the police officers being assaulted in Times Square, shot in Queens, multiple stabbings that have resulted in death, all right? That's what's happening in the media. Do you have the stats? Has NYPD, because the city won't allow them to cooperate with ICE to deport criminals, has the mayor's office allowed the NYPD to give your office that information?
Well, back in January, we did submitted a FOIL request. We did get a response a week ago, and there was no information for them to give to us. But I do know for a fact there was a call on a strangulation that occurred at Floyd Bennett Field. There was some other issues, and those type of crimes are not being made available to the public.
Yeah,
And not even NYPD in some cases can even enter the tents. So you have security guards making decisions on what they deem is a criminal activity, or, in that way, which is just madness.
So we all know that crime is taking place at these shelters because we're reading about it regularly in the newspapers, right? We're just trying to get a hold on those statistics. And I myself have also been stonewalled, unfortunately, by the city. I put in my own FOIL request after a letter I sent in October was ignored. January, sent in a FOIL request, said that I was going to get the information in May, and then guess what? In May, they told me now August. So they too are being very disingenuous with the public. Mr. King, you are from that area. Could you talk a little bit about the concerns of some of the residents that you live with? And can you also maybe talk about the taxpayers' concerns about having this national park being taken away from them and the cost that this is coming to the city of New York, where you're seeing services cut for the hardworking citizens?
Well, I think, across, not just Rockaway, but all across Brooklyn and Queens, people are upset because we have a lot of hurting citizens, and now all of a sudden, now we have services getting cut because the money has to come from somewhere. And they're paying an exorbitant amount of money, $28.8 million or $27.8 million to set this up. But we definitely see the negative effects in our community as well. So, and with summer coming, we'll have more of the problems. We said in the beginning we were afraid this would be a humanitarian crisis in the park that'll spill into the neighborhoods. Now that summer's coming, that's going to be spilling more aggressively into Rockaway. And we don't have, it's an area where we have very little police protection, we have very little services of any sort, stores. So it's a recipe for bad things to happen.
Okay. My time has expired. I don't know if we're going to be able to do another round, but I did have more questions.
Well, we did,
Mr.
but we can
Chairman.
always submit those